Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 269 has officially been translated, and I want to go over it and see if we missed anything from the leaks because there's a lot of information revealed to us, so let's get into it. So the chapter begins with Mei Mei going to this candy store right here, and she's going to buy something. And the next page is Maki speaking to Yuta, and she says, "Yuta, you bastard, just because you're in your original body does not mean all happy endings." And then Megumi says hi to Maki, and she says, "How are you doing?" And he says, "My head's a little bit hazy because of Unlimited Void." And he says he wants to apologize, but that is not needed at all. But then Yuji says he needs to apologize for something, but then Kusakabe steps in, and Kusakabe says that the root of this is that Gojo never killed Yuji, and then Yuji became a victim for Kenjaku's cursed terrorism. He says he was against it, but the only reason he's here is because of Yaga. He says, "I'm not trying to tell you I told you so, but everybody's ideals clashed for us to create this present." And he says to the three of them, "Don't feel guilty at all, you're just kids." Yuji asks Yuta and says, "How are you back in your old body?" And he's like, "Well, when I went to Gojo's body, Rika stayed by mine. She kept on haunting Yuta's original body, and after he got healed by Shoko, Rika did reverse curse technique on Yuta's original body." And Mei says this caught us off guard because we thought Kenjaku could act after using a domain, and Kusakabe says it's probably because he was using a bunch of different techniques. And Yuta says once the curse technique recovered, Rika acted as an external technique. She reconnected Yuta's unconscious state, and that's why he's ended up back in his own body. And Maki says she does not care about such story. If Yuta played his cards right, we could have won with less difficulty. Maki says she should have done the swap with Todo instead of Yuta against Kenjaku, and Higuruma should have had the voice recorder of Toge's. She says if they would have done that, they would have won way easier, but Todo says no, that's not right at all, Maki. Todo says he couldn't swap with Maki because of his boogie woogie. Yuta needed Todo's help to have a better surprise attack on Kenjaku, and he also needed Rika to take care of the other curses that were Kenjaku's. And Panda says that Toge's curse speech needed to be timed right because the backlash could have been deadly. And then we see somebody in the background, and we see that it's Higuruma, and he says if that Yuta was there, he would have been killed by Sukuna because he was just playing around with him originally. Higuruma says that Toge's curse speech was better used in Yuta's domain because in his own domain, nobody can be harmed in his unlike Yuta's. Kusakabe says that it's crazy that somebody who just became a sorcerer 2 months ago is still alive, and Higuruma says that it's more accurate to say that he managed to survive. But Maki says even so, if those foreign reinforcements were there since the very beginning, things would have turned out a lot different. And they give Yuta this crazy stare, and he says we never knew for sure if they would show up, but Maki says they came, didn't they? And Yuji's like, yo, chill out. And Yuji said that Yuta gave him the gauntlets and he stopped Sukuna's second domain expansion, and then Akari says without Yuta we would have not been able to stay inside Rika. Todo says he takes responsibility because he was not able to rescue Choso and Yuji. Kirara says at the center of Sukuna's domain expansion the curse energy was so strong that she could not get Choso or Yuji. Ino says he was at the center, but Ui got him in time. Choso should have survived. Yuji says if that would have happened, I would have died, so it's nobody's fault. Yuta just makes Maki's mind go crazy, so she just gives up this argument. And Miwa says when she went to rescue Maki, she didn't know if Maki would be rescued. And Momo's like, I feel like I should be apologizing for not doing anything, but Momo's like, I did like your broom. Hikari says he was planning on taking on Sukuna once he defeated Arame, but she was strong. Nobara says she was asleep until the very last moment, so she can't comment. But then Ui says that he is the MVP of this entire battle. And Ui says that Mei Mei worked really hard on the new shadows. And Akari says new shadows, isn't that the restriction on the simple domain? Basically, the new shadows family had a binding vow on the simple domain, and specific people can use it and not use it. And Mei Mei says over time the new shadow style became a secret trade. The family wanted to keep it to themselves, and they wanted to use the new shadow styles as a base for people who don't have cursed techniques. And they say right here the only way they could take off the restrictions of the simple domain is by having the head of the new shadow styles family take it off. And then Kusakabe says he is the head of the family, and then he takes off the restriction of the new shadow style simple domain. And then we learn that Ui is the successor to Kusakabe, and eventually he'll be the head of the new shadow styles family. And I love how Yuji just looks at them weird because they are weird. And then we cut back to Mei Mei from the beginning of the chapter. The lady thought that she was gonna buy something, but Mei Mei says this is concerning your life. The old lady says, why here? You think I'm the head? She says, Fufu, I merely inquired with somebody who knows that information. The old lady says it's impossible to know. She says grow the disciples to rival the big three families. Mei Mei says that this lady's plan was to take control of the entire Jujutsu world and run everything from headquarters. And then she screams Tengen. Mei Mei says that this old lady took a long time, but she even went as far to drain the lifespan of her disciples just to see the view that she wanted. She says a truly grand ambition that money cannot buy. She says, however, things more important than money cannot be protected without it. She says without the monopoly of the simple domain, some sorcerers would have lived. And she says, and now with the fall of the Zenin clan and the Gojo and Kamo family destined to perish in battle, above all with them aiming to harm my brother, this was inevitable. And then we see that she kills this old lady, and this is the end of the chapter. Yeah, this was a great chapter. chapter, Gege was just explaining all of the plot holes that people could not understand. But I also learned a lot about the battle from this chapter, and I'm glad that Gege made this. Like, there were so many ways that this could go bad, but they won in the end. I love that he explained everything in the end, and he tied up all the loose knots. Let me know, guys, what you think of this chapter. It was a great one.